Welcome back everybody to Guitar in the Real World again. Another instalment of talking about guitars, and today I'm going to talk about the Telecaster. And could it be the most versatile electric guitar design ever? Well, I mean, you know, these sort of things are open to debate all the time, aren't they? But I would say the Tele is one of those guitars that you will have heard on a lot of records without knowing that it was a Tele. If we think about some of the classic stuff that we know from the 60s, a lot of the pop records that came out that were made by the Wrecking Crew, which featured Tommy Tedesco on guitar. Back then, he was playing a Tele predominantly. I know he used 335 type instruments more in the 70s. But, you know, the Tele is the instrument that is the sound of 60s pop, where there were the session musicians being used a lot. Of course, Motown, there's a lot of Tele action on those records. And throughout the 70s, a lot of the funk material that came out, a lot of the funk bands were playing Teles, also 335s. It was Teles and 335s a lot in the 70s. But, you know, if you think about some of those Earth, Wind and Fire grooves that we know and love, I would wager that there's a lot of Tele action going. Or what about some? Also, there are obviously a whole load of other Tele users who come from a more sort of country background, but also in jazz. I mean, there's been a lot of jazzers. The late great Ted Green was known for using a Tele pretty much most of his career. Another famous person we can think of who uses a Tele style guitar even now is Mike Stern, although he did play a Strat when he was with Miles for a bit. But a lot of his work over the last 40 years was basically played on a Tele of some sort, albeit a humbucker loaded one. So yeah, I mean, what is it about this guitar that actually works in so many styles of music, and why is it popular in the context of recorded music, I would say? Or why has it been in the past? I'd say it probably is even now. I would suspect that a lot of pop records that we are familiar with from, you know, even the 80s and the 90s and this side of the 21st century, I think you will find there's quite a lot of Tele action going on there. So why is it that this instrument design works so well? Well, I think it's to do with the sonic area that it inhabits, especially if you're playing in the middle position with both pickups. You know, you can have like a that sound has its own place in the mix, and you can bury it without losing it from the mix. I really enjoy using the Tele on rhythm guitar parts, whether it's something, I mean, that was a much more of a kind of soul 2 and 4 kind of feel, but you can really, you know, put the Tele into its own space without having to work too hard. It's a bit like, you know, a triangle. If you mix a triangle into a mix, you can take it virtually out of the mix and you can still hear it, but it never gets in the way. And I think that's one of the advantages of the Tele when you're talking in terms of using it as a rhythm guitar. There are other examples where Teles are used for heavier sounds. I mean, I think a lot of the, you know, alt country, modern country stuff uses Tele style guitar. I mean, Brent Mason, for example, you know, he's spent much of his career playing his grey Tele. And it's a guitar that sounds great with overdrive. You know, again, when I was a kid, I didn't really appreciate the tonal possibilities of a Tele. It wasn't until I got a bit older that I realised, you know, how versatile they actually are. So if we dial up something that's a bit more crunchy. Can't really say that doesn't rock, can you? And of course, there's the neck pickup, which some people don't actually like, but I quite like it as a tone of its own. It's a nice sort of smooth. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's an instrument that hasn't always found its fame where you'd expect it to. But yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Telecasters and you'd like to, check one out, I would strongly recommend it, because I think you'd be surprised at what you can do with a Tele, regardless of what genre of music you play. Whether you're playing, I mean, pretty much any style apart from maybe incredibly heavy-duty metal subgenres, but whether you're talking blues, jazz, rock, pop, classic rock, soul, funk, R&B, all those styles, Telecasters work fantastically in them. Okay, see you soon, guys. Cheers.